Welcome to Team More Wine, sir, the Game of Thrones Gorilla Cast for Boomtron's Optionated. I'm Elena, with me is Rachel, and we're here today to talk about the latest episode. So crack open a bottle like we just did, and sit back and listen in while we ramble and curse our way through a dissection of the episode. We're up to episode number 2. This was, the Nightlands, I think?
Nightlands, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to start off with a big spoilery rant here, but Rachel, you had some interesting stuff about, what were you smoking on your Twitter? I'm curious what was so fucked up about the last 15 minutes.
You want to go straight to that? And all right. We can go straight to that. It's fine.
Straight to that.
I'm gonna leave out all the spoiler bits to this, which some people will argue is relevant, but I don't want to spoil you. I don't want to spoil anybody who's listening to this. So we're just gonna do it up until this point, okay? My big, what the beef is the scene between Stannis and Melisandre.
I wondered about that one myself. Okay.
In the books, it is not explicit whether or not Stannis and Melisandre are fucking. Whether or not they're fucking is irrelevant. It's kind of like, fine. She has a vagina and he has a penis and they're alone together. Fine. They probably screw. It's Davos who is kind of worried that that's happening because, he's of course loyal to this man and he is opposed to any outside influence, especially one as different as Melisandre in Stannis' sort of realm, right? Fine, whatever. What pissed me off a little bit, and it's not even I think it wouldn't have been as bad if it hadn't been at the end of an hour's worth of titty shots every 10 seconds. This episode was particularly terrible.
Yeah.
I was just mad. I was like, what the fuck is this? It's never proven and it's always this mystery because Stannis is very concerned with doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. He's not a hypocrite. He goes out of his way to not be a hypocrite. He had them strike all that stuff out of his letter and yet he would cheat on his wife with some woman who gives him nothing, no money, no power, no land. Why would he? Why? Because she's got, really nice boobs? That's great, but I don't think that Stannis gives a shit about boobs, quite honestly. And
the Stannis clearly had a hard-on at the thought of siring a son, not her boobs. That was the thing. He's
right, but that is also kind of So you'd rather have a bastard? That also does not fit into Stannis' worldview.
Yeah, I kind of wondered at that myself, just because what's he going to do with the son off of her? He's not married to her.
Yeah,
his wife is still alive. All he's going to have is whatever the Dragonstone last name for Snow is, Stone or something. He'll have Jon Stone.
Yeah.
And that's the best he can get out of that. Ooh, wow.
Right. And also he'll piss off his wife and her whole family and any kind of support that he gets from them.
Yeah, this is not Dune where you sire your true heir on the mistress or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, in the book, Stannis has a daughter, and she's actually, malformed. It came through a disease, so she has, the scaly gray face. But he actually kind of loves her and dotes on her a little bit. So it's just, I don't give a shit if he actually had sex with Melisandre or not. You know what? I would, if I put money down, I'd bet no. But it's kind of alluded to in the novels. Davos kind of thinks that, and Melisandre lets him think that. But it's the whole explicit, let's screw on top of the Dragonstone table.
For the purpose of you impregnating me.
And also for the purpose of us getting yet another titty shot. It sucked. It took out all of the subtlety and the mystery and the things. Because, Stannis is, the one true guy who always makes the right choice, or at least appears to. So the fact that he would be such a hypocrite behind closed doors is interesting, but it's only interesting in a kind of subtle, mysterious way, and not oh, no, he's a hypocrite. Let's move on. Everything he says is bullshit. He's totally bullshitting everybody. And that makes Stannis not interesting to me. A lot of people disagree with me, but that's my little soapbox. And then at the end, Jon doesn't get knocked out, but who cares, right? That was fine, him getting knocked out.
Well, that was just, that scene was just funny. I guess we'll just skip to the end and then go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Since we're talking about Jon Snow, who knows where to put it.
Who doesn't know where the babies go?
Who doesn't know where the baby's going? I mean, it's pretty obvious, but...
Yeah, right. What does he do with his sons? I don't know.
There's no sons around here, and the Night Watch does not have a steady influx of infants to nurse, so... obviously they're killed dead in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was hilarious watching Jon Snow project onto that whole sequence. He's like, that could have been me!
Yeah.
The whole time. And so he goes chasing after it, and then he can't even get there in time to see the fucking White Walker. That's what was really lame. Or am I reading that wrong? Did he get there in time to see the glowy eyes?
I mean, I didn't see it. I saw some movement and I heard some slobbering. I would assume that we're seeing what Jon was seeing.
Well, see, it actually has the White Walker pick up the infant and, like, look at the camera for half a second, and there's those creepy, glowy blue eyes, and then it walks off. But I couldn't tell if Jon actually saw that or if we were being told something so that we know, even though he didn't see. And
I can't, I mean, let's just assume that he saw it.
Okay. Well, and then I just remembered, like, while I'm talking about this, that he's already seen a White Walker, so it's not like Jon Snow would have just missed out on some amazing revelation if he didn't see it. So that whole conversation is entirely irrelevant.
Right, and it's actually, we don't know if he saw a White Walker or if he saw an other. They're different.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know if HBO is going to make a clear distinction because they seem to be writing to the comics. I might be a little mad at this episode because last week I went to bat and said that perhaps the show is better than the books, and then this week they were like, "Ha ha, psych."
Nothing but titties and
yeah, it's just.
Let's oversimplify everything.
Yeah, they're sort of writing to the lowest common denominator. It's like, we can't tell the difference between Osha and Asha, so we'll call her Yara. And then they cast the random Lannister as a guy who looks exactly like Gendry. Like, that wasn't confusing for the lowest common denominator. And now there's differences between all these northern scary monster things. But anyway, that is... The blue eyes makes me think that it was, in fact, not a walker, but an other.
But an other. Okay. See, I didn't realize because I remember the walkers having the glowy blue eyes, but... Well,
they have blue eyes, but they don't have, like, agency. They kind of just... They're like zombies versus demon-y things. Like, remember in the very first episode when that, like, orky-looking one came at the Watchmen? That guy. One of those. But it could have just been a random walker just being like, hey, this is good food. Mystery.
Breakfast.
It's a mystery.
Yes, to be revealed.
To be revealed later.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, since you brought up Yara, Asha, let's talk about her, because that was probably one of my favorite scenes.
Okay, I wrote all the scenes down in order, so now I have to... we talked about this one, we talked about this one. This is fine, this is good. It's like...
Let's change it up. Keep everybody on their toes.
So, Theon and Asha. Yara. I'm not calling her Yara. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just to your point, Yara sounds so much like Arya. Like, especially since they're not pronouncing it Arya. They're pronouncing it Arya. Like, what the fuck? that was the stupidest name change ever.
But she's a pirate.
She is a pirate. Yar.
Yara. Did you like her intro? Because that was basically what happens in the book.
Yes, that was my favorite thing ever. I have to set this up by telling you what I thought watching Theon on the ship.
Oh yeah, with the captain's daughter.
With Captain's daughter. I mean, first he was not impressing me at all as a lover, and then when he immediately, hits on the first girl who speaks to him on shore, I'm just like, man, Theon is the fucking Theta Chi president of Westeros. I don't know what Theta Chis are like across the country, but in my hometown university there, Theta Chi was the absolute worst, like, drunkest, trashiest, date rapiest fraternity of them all. They got kicked off of campus, and then they got, like, disbarred from even being associated with the university. So that tells you what the Theta Chi is.
Theon is their president.
And he's like, they're the president of the Westeros chapter. And he's just fucking, like, arrogant, overprivileged, I think I have the right to do any of this sort of jackass.
Yeah, and the way that he treated the girl on the ship, and she was like thinking, oh, you're going to make me your salt wife, and it's going to be great. I'm going to get off this ship and get away from my dad. And he's like, no, dude, I'm just fucking you. And then he just moves on to the next woman who he also has no respect for, and yet he's made to reevaluate that situation, which is great.
Yeah, well, what I loved about that is that she obviously was like, I'm going to get my brother's measure and see how he treats women in general. And she's like, oh my God, my brother's a fucking asshat. And I'm sure she was loving every time. He was just like digging his own grave, like shitty one-liner after shitty one-liner. Yeah. And he's like, I can ride you all night, or it'll be night to remember, whatever it was he was saying. And she's just like, oh, even worse. I was watching it, I'm like, man, if I were her, would I let him go all the way, like, fucking me just to see how bad he was and then throw it in his face? I don't know that I would, because it is your brother, and it's just fucking weird, but,
Well, Asha is the type of character who, she just does not give a shit. Like, she doesn't feel the need to defend herself because she's a woman. She's just like, whatever, dude, I've been here, I've been raiding and being an awesome Greyjoy, and what have you been doing? Nothing. And she is the true kind of son of their father.
Yes.
And she definitely stepped up in that vacuum and said, well, there's just me, and I have to take advantage of the fact that Theon isn't here. Mm-hmm. And she's not about to let that go.
Yeah, well, I actually loved that. I was just thinking, wow, this is the first time we're seeing a female character who is not assuming power through a man, but, through herself. I mean, last week I was talking about Melisandre. Well, at least she's doing it on her own agency and not based on her name and her husband. But this time we actually have kind of the true leader who's like, I'm just going to stand here, and you're not going to give a shit that I'm a woman, because my strength of personality and my intelligence or judgment or courage or whatever her personal qualities are such that you're not going to give a shit that I have boobs and no cock. You're not going to care because I'm just that awesome.
Yeah, and she I mean, we have to put her in the context. Like, she does sort of overcompensate and become like one of the guys in that respect. But you're right, she's an anomaly. She can, she has her own ship. She has men that follow her into battle. She doesn't have, she has her father to answer to, but she doesn't have a husband to answer to. And even in that society, women aren't treated with that much respect. So yeah, she's super important, and I love her.
Yes, well, I can see why. after meeting her, I just she swaggered on screen, and I guess knowing that she's Theon's sister, so therefore she was going to show up, I figured out that's who she was, like, on first sight. Because I'm like, she was just walking around that dock like she fucking owned it.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, like, she just, I don't know, the actress was really, I think, well cast, because she's not the kind of woman that's going to be playing on her physical charms, because, she wasn't especially pretty, and she just had that kind of, I don't know, like, blue-collar gruffness to her that made it, like, she fit the part. It seemed, I didn't question it at all. Like, if somebody who looked like Cersei, for example, was acting like that, I would question it. But I didn't question it with her.
Yeah, I think that's important, because there's actually a backlash ever since they revealed the first few stills of her, because people wanted her to be hotter. Fuck them. She's hot enough, and she's certainly not disgusting.
Yeah, she's not unattractive. She's just not, like, she's not a woman that you look at and think, wow, she's really pretty.
Yeah,
and
like,
I haven't seen her made up. Maybe she is with fucking makeup on, and she was wearing a dress.
That's not Asha.
But that's not her.
Yeah, she would never, ever, ever do that. She'd be like, what the fuck do I do with this shit? She's like, give me my axes and let's go kill people. That's what she wants. So she says, she calls her axe her husband. So
Yara loves axes.
Yeah. I got really mad when people started saying that she was ugly, because, like, one, not everyone on the planet needs to look like Cersei. That's just a fucking issue in general. And come on, she's badass, and that makes her sexy, and she wears leather pants.
Yes. And she wears the pants.
Yeah, she totally does.
God, there were so many great lines. Like, oh, you're the one in skirts.
She can't lead an attack. Well, why not? That, and did you get the whole iron price versus the gold price?
Yeah, and I loved that line. That fucking blew me away. I mean, I'm glad that he explained it, because I don't think I would have picked up on that. But when he's basically like, did you earn that through killing somebody, or did you pay for it like a fucking Nancy Lord? And Theon's like, oh, I paid gold for it. You fail. You were
right, and that's their one main tenet, right? They have their own god. He's called the Drowned God, and they have this iron price, and that is it. They don't make money. They don't farm. They take what they want.
Oh, so the House Greyjoy is like the house pirate.
Yes, they're house pirates. Yeah, that makes the whole Kraken thing like kind of stupid. You're like, oh, I get it. Way to like be right on the nose with that, George. Okay. Maybe at least it's not a parrot.
Well, we're talking about the octopus that was like totally looks like it was eating out the fire pussy. Yeah.
Oh, that. Yes.
Yeah. The only reason I had that thought is because I recently stumbled across some tentacle porn from like 1814.
Tentacle hentai. It's called tentacle hentai.
Oh, okay. Thank you, art major.
You're welcome.
Yes. Art graduate school major. And yeah. So, but it looked exactly like
not at work and not in front of your parents.
But it looked exactly like that kind of octopus that showed up in some of the prints from, like 1814 Japan.
Yeah, like the Hokusai stuff. Yeah, I love those things because they're like, overhead views of people in shivers, and like the penises are always, if it's not a tentacle like thing, it's always like this giant, throbby, veiny dick. And they're just so there, and it's just, and they show you many different angles and many different positions, and even that is hotter than watching Theon kind of hump his way through. That was awful. But I think that in general is kind of how they're getting away with all the sex on Game of Thrones, because they're just not making it erotic at all.
To your point, is Theon's sexy... Is Theon's sex supposed to be sexy sex, or is it supposed to kind of underscore how unsympathetic a character he is to a modern audience?
Oh yeah, he doesn't give a shit about the lady. That's not... No.
Yeah, and at least Littlefinger has the decency to, like, tenderly wipe the cum stain off of the whore's mouth before he sends her to a new client. He's like, oh, come here. Like, Theon doesn't even have that much.
Do you want to talk about the scene with Ros and Littlefinger?
Yeah. I actually have a question for you about this. Because I feel like we talked last season about how you're like, what the fuck is Ros doing leaving Winterfell? Why is she going to King's Landing? What the fuck? That doesn't happen.
Ros is not in the books. Ros is made up.
Oh, okay. So, okay, well, there it is. So that being said, how do you feel about having a character from Winterfell sort of migrate to King's Landing with us and take, I guess, an alternate life path from the lords that go there?
Well, a lot of people kind of don't like Ros because they feel like she's taking away from Shae, who is Tyrion's lady, that's shacking up with him. They kind of do share, they sort of split Shae into two different characters, and they have the Shae that is with Tyrion, and then they have the Ros stuff. Sometimes Ros is just kind of like, all right, yeah, we need another boob. It's HBO. We've got our boob quota. But I think that she is providing a way for the writers to explore Peter's personality in a way that you don't really get, especially this early on in the books.
Yeah. See, I actually really like her, and I find her much more interesting than Shae. Having not gotten to Shae in the books, I'm sure that's my fault, but I don't know. I kind of am bored by Shae. I don't know that I really believe her relationship with Tyrion, seeing it the way they show it on TV. It seems very opportunistic, and that's fine, but I'm not compelled by it. I'll put it that way.
You're not shipping them, is what you're saying.
I'm not. Oh, hell no. And I mean, to me, the most compelling point of their relationship so far is just Tyrion basically saying, "Don't threaten me because she's mine." But I didn't feel like it was because he gave a shit about her. It was, "She's mine. Don't threaten what's mine."
Poor wounded Tyrion. Come on. You don't think that he? I think intellectually,
the whore who fell into his lap.
Well, intellectually, yes, she's a whore, and he knows that. But I think maybe emotionally, maybe Tyrion needs somebody to like him, or at least pretend to.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. But just for me, as someone who doesn't know, like, what their relationship becomes or is supposed to be, I look at the two women, and to me, the one with the more interesting path is Ros. Just because I guess she saw an opportunity, and she went for it.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of seeing her both, I think, excel remarkably well. I mean, she's a fucking whore from Winterfell who, it's the ass end of nowhere. She has no courtly skills, and yet, within a year in King's Landing, she's basically become the madam who.
Well, that's interesting too, right? Because last episode she was calling the shots and being all uppity, and now this episode he reminded her, like,
yeah,
you're only here because you're an asset to me, so don't not be an asset.
But I'm finding her story and her character arc a little more interesting, at least as it's come so far.
Sure. It's nice to think that Littlefinger is this helpful guy who, he's just so good at that. He's so good at tricking people into thinking he gives a shit. He's like, yeah, and that's 24/7.
That scene was amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I bought it. I
bought it? I was like, this is not going to go well for her.
well, except that he's stabbed enough people in the back by this point that I wasn't surprised when he turned it around. But I was like, well, I don't know, maybe he actually does value her as an asset, and he sees how she makes him money, and so he's actually maybe he can deal with her on a level that he can't deal with the Ned Starks or the Catelyn Starks of the world. Mm-hmm. There is that possibility. And so watching it, I was like, oh, he's actually being nice. I'm like, oh, wow, he's being the biggest asshole in the world, but yet that's who he is. He's a businessman. He's there to make money, and it's the gentlest way to remind her of it. He's not slapping her around. He's basically just saying, if you stop making me money, I'm going to find another way to make money from you.
Yeah, exactly. He is ruthless in that way.
Yeah, and I think you're right that she probably is there to kind of show us who he is, so that there's not a lot of confusion. One thing I will say about the show, I think it's cutting out a lot of the character ambiguity, or letting us discover who they really are later that happens in the books, because this leaves no ambiguity about.
Yeah, and that is my boyfriend is really mad about that. He's been very, very dissatisfied with the fact that they're showing their cards, everybody's showing their cards so early. He finds that it's not compelling. Like, he's like, why should I continue to watch it? Nothing's going to be revealed and nothing is a mystery. And I see his point. But I think if you haven't read the books, which, HBO they want those people, because there's more people that haven't read the books that are going to watch the HBO show than have.
Yeah.
And they want those people to know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. I'm happy to be the voice of the people who haven't read the books anymore. I'm finding it completely compelling.
Yeah.
I don't mind knowing where they're coming from, because I don't know, there's so much going on that I'm interested in action. I'm interested in seeing how all this plays out. And, every time we get two characters together, we get kind of or I should say two major characters together, we get a butting of heads of sort of the different paths to making a power struggle that we have going on. I'm thinking here of, the Tyrion Cersei stuff that happened in this episode. Yeah. Where he is basically like, I'm going to replace this, corrupt city watch commander with Bronn, who I at least trust to make an offer to me if somebody else offers him more. He's like, hey, I just got this offer from Jan over here. What you going to do for me? I trust Bronn that much. So and then with coming back with Cersei,
well,
the entire conversation.
Were you surprised when it was sort of alluded to that it was in fact Joffrey who?
No, I think I wrote like 4 times in my little live blog notes. Haha, I called that last week. It was not Cersei.
Well, it makes sense, because if Cersei had actually been the one to do that, then she would have been giving legitimacy to the rumor.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that she wouldn't give a shit about the fact that he had bastards or not, because there was a legitimate son, he kind of fucked that up for himself. But, Joffrey doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Exactly.
Joffrey makes decisions and does things that he shouldn't, that cause problems for other people.
Speaking of Joffrey, since we didn't get him or Sansa this week, I was thinking, just pursuant to our Sansa discussion last week.
Oh, yeah.
About how fucking glad I am I don't have to read her perspective anymore. Because I was thinking about how she probably played out that whole scene in the book, assuming it happened that way, where she stops him from killing somebody, and she's probably thinking like, oh, Joffrey's lost his temper, I have to save him from himself because he'll regret it later, or some bullshit like that. And I'm just like, bitch, open your eyes and see what the fuck this little asshole is.
I think it's more of, I don't want to watch this, and I don't want it to be my fault, kind of.
Well, at least that's marginally self-serving enough. See, I'm probably making her worse than she was, but that's how I figured she was going to do it. Is like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing.
At this point, she is still struggling. She is still kind of like, oh my god, my family's a traitor, because she doesn't know what's going on. The only information she has is the bullshit that Joffrey gives her.
Yeah.
So as far as she knows, maybe they are all traitors, and maybe she is too, and they're in the right and she's in the wrong, and she has to move against that. And then she's also struggling with, wait, no, I know that we're good people, and I know that my father was a good person. It's a struggle. But I liked the scene between Tyrion and Cersei because, you know, Tyrion isn't stupid, and it's kind of a relief to finally see someone, you know, moving around in King's Landing that knows how to play the game. He's going to replace the pieces with his own pieces.
Well, I mean, he flat out said that to Varys. He's like, I'm not Ned Stark. I know how the game is played.
Yeah. Now, I think going up against Varys that's kind of like me trying to fight Muhammad Ali, but hey. He's like a fucking professional.
But, you know, the thing about well, Varys as well is I think if you make yourself, I guess, a force to be reckoned with and basically say, you might win, but I'm going to make it a Pyrrhic victory, I can do that much, then he's going to hesitate before doing anything, at least overtly, against you. And maybe that's all Tyrion needs, is just the sort of guarantee that he's not going to.
Yeah, and there's and also nobody knows what the game is, right? I mean,
yeah.
Tyrion knows what his game is, but what the fuck is Varys doing? Like, why is he why is he still there? Why does he keep swimming? What's his goal?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what his end game is. I don't understand why he was allowed to stay in that position between kings. I mean, to me,
there are so many of them that did, though.
I know, and this was something, you know, back when I was doing the reads with Jay, he and I had a conversation about this, and like, well, you don't understand like the ridiculous bureaucracy that would have been in place already in a kingdom, and how hard that is to replace if you're coming in. And so if you're just like, well, you know, this guy was competent, he, you know, was following his orders, that means he'll follow my orders because he just, you know, wants to be part of it, then he's fine. To me, and that may be true, but I personally still have trouble believing even like Robert Baratheon was stupid enough to leave in place the prior spy master, you know, and I don't understand why nobody's killed him just for being
because,
what he is.
Well, to kill him, then you'd lose all of the resources that he's been building up over his entire life.
Yeah, but he's dead, and so all those resources are useless.
Well, no, because he's got somebody else knows about them, right? You always have to say, well, I'd rather know where my enemy is and be able to see him than to create an enemy that I cannot see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but I don't know. There's still that satisfaction of, but see, I think I'm much more like Ned Stark than, you know, I would like to admit. I don't deal well with that sort of shit.
Yeah. Well, what about, okay, let's go to Arya and Gendry making their way north.
Yeah. Gendry surprised me. Here's where I have to confess my own prejudices. I expected Gendry to be dumb. I was thinking oh, you know, blacksmith's apprentice, he likes to hammer things, you know, big dumb jock.
Well, I mean, he's not educated, but he knows that something's up.
Yeah, but then like this whole once we actually engaged him in conversation, I was like, wow, he seems actually really, like, bright and personable, and he was really funny.
Yeah, Gendry's pretty funny. I loved the scene where they're sort of doing the dishes in the river, and you see that Lamy Greenhands, and that's his name, by the way, Lamy Greenhands, and Hot Pie.
He has a name.
He actually had green hands. You know, go HBO for that. That was good. And then Hot Pie, who is exactly the way that I imagined Hot Pie to be in my brain. I was like, there he is. There's Hot Pie doing dishes. It's pretty funny that they didn't, you know, because she's got to like scuttle off and try to pee and have no one see her. And I don't know. I just love that the whole relationship between Gendry and Arya is one that is pretty popular in the fandom. People love them.
Mm-hmm.
Little brother-sister team. Other people are gross, but come on. Arya's too young. Don't be gross.
But she's not always going to be young. She'll grow up, and, in Martin's world, that means, 11.
Never assume, Elena.
Oh. Never assume that anybody grows up. Well, that's depressing.
No, I don't know. I like their scenes, and I like that she's like, they're coming for me. They're coming for me. I'm not a lady, but they're coming for me.
Yeah. Well, the I'm not a lady scene, that was priceless when he has that, when he's kind of thinking through the implications. He's like, wait, you're Stark, of House Stark. And I've just been sitting here talking about fluffing your dick out and, oh shit, what did I just do? I'm so sorry. And too little too late.
Yeah, but Arya doesn't care.
Well, that's what she tries to tell him. She's like, but my mother was a lady, and my sister, but he didn't let her finish but I'm not a lady at all.
But I mean, for Arya, she thinks that it's like a state of being, whereas for Gendry, it's a rank, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that's the difference in, I guess, being born to the manor, as it were.
Yeah.
And, not. He actually understands that it doesn't matter what kind of hoyden she is, because of being Arya Stark, she's a lady. Yeah. And she's like, I didn't do the shitty things Sansa used to do, or that my mom tried to make me, or that, my governess tried to make me do. I can't stitch for anything. Therefore, I'm not a lady. Yeah,
and he's like, no, I'm sorry. That's not going to keep somebody from, lopping my head off.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And Yoren, he definitely let those, I guess they were Lannister guards, or were they gold cloaks?
I think they called them gold cloaks.
Okay,
I don't know
what the gold cloaks. You let him have it. That was pretty good.
Oh, that scene was awesome.
I mean, what did they think was going to happen? I mean, yeah, there's 2 of you and you're on horses, but there's 30 of these crazy dudes, including 3 horrible, horrible criminals in a cage.
Well, I think what they thought was going to happen is that nobody was going to give a shit if they were like, hey, we're here to take one straggly street kid back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's legitimately what they thought. They figured, nobody was going to care because nobody cared about these people in the first place. So why would they care if they come and take one of them back?
Yeah, I guess that's true. And they're also thinking these people are criminals anyway.
Yeah.
So if I offer them a reward, but those people are savvy. They know if they speak up, they're not going to get shit. Nobody's going to give them a prize. So did you like Jock and Hagar?
Those were the guys in the cage?
Yes, Jockin and Biter and Rorhe or Rorg, or I don't listen to the audiobook, so I don't know how to say it. But it's R-O-R-G-E.
But Jockin is the one who was talking and being somewhat polite. And
yes, the accented one.
Yes, I liked him. I'm curious to know more about him and what he's in for.
Yeah, the other 2 are basically super thugs.
Yeah, your typical murderous cutthroat.
Yeah, Biter eats people.
Oh.
And
he'll get along really well north of the wall then.
Yeah. I sharpened teeth and yeah, they're pretty good. So what have we not talked about? Oh, how about Jon Snow and Sam and Gilly?
Yeah, I always feel
Sam's
so bad.
awesome plan.
Sam is he's not a visionary. I don't understand how he thought that one was going to work.
I didn't either. I'm like, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You're going to take her?
Going to come do a forced march with you through the winter, through the fucking snowfields until what? She has the baby on the battlefield?
Yeah.
Really?
Meanwhile, Craster's going to come kill you, or try to. But that's, you know what? Gilly's desperate, so.
And Sam is desperate too. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about from that whole scene, was how hilarious was it that those guys were drooling over the sight of women. I'm like, wow, they're in some.
Oh yeah, they're isn't it great when they're walking away? And I'm like, walking away, they look like sacks of barley. I
can't tell the difference between those and the dudes.
Hey,
wow,
I guess
really
if you're around men for that long. Yeah, even quality.
Even knowing that they're females under the same shapelessness is enough. Maybe that's how burkas work. I don't know. But for me, I was just like, dudes, really, I don't see it.
You don't like the sexy layered look?
It's eminently practical, but it's not doing it for me in a sexual way, no.
No.
It's not the lingerie I'm gonna, bust out next time I need to entice someone. Do you like my bearskin?
So I'm sort of kind of still miffed, like, why the hell are they still hanging out with Craster? This is the most boring crap in the world.
Yeah,
They've been camping for days.
Yeah, I didn't get that because, see, elsewhere in the world, we're having, like, weeks and months pass. I don't know how long it took Theon's ship to get over to the Iron Islands, but I'm guessing at least a couple weeks. And
still hanging out at Craster's.
And they're still hanging out at Craster's. Like, what the fuck? Were they rebuilding his hold for winter? Is that, like, part of the price of staying there for one night? I'm sorry. Just fucking camp.
Yeah.
At that point, like, just fucking camp. It's easier.
I know. I felt bad for them because you know that they have to... Well, I guess supposedly they're feeding them. Because Ghost went after the meat, so maybe they're not.
Yeah.
Ghost looked good.
Two thumbs up. Baby? Is that what they do with the babies?
They eat the babies.
That would actually be more practical than, like, leaving them out in the woods. I'm sorry, but it would. He's not a very good survivalist. I'm just saying.
Craster. Well, maybe he is. You don't know what's going on. Just saying. And I'm not saying nothing else.
You with your, I know the story. Ooh, that's so special.
Okay, well, let's go to Dany and Rakharo, because that's not in the book.
Guess that ship sailed. Oh.
I know, I was like, oh, Lena's gonna be sad, because there's nothing happening there.
Not sad, I noticed that, he seemed like he was trying to start something. He was
live-action Aladdin got an Aladdin gig.
Although I was sad that I didn't get to see live-action Aladdin. I'll have to actually go back and rewatch the first episode now. But I was not surprised, and I kind of loved Dany's reaction. She's like, they won't think this about me when I'm done with them. She's just like bottling up all the things she hates, like all the ways.
Which is kind of a lot to say when you're surrounded by, like, crying women.
Yeah.
And one horse.
and an echoing waste of nothingness. But she has dragons.
Little ones.
That apparently are, close to starving.
That don't eat. Little ones. And they have no water. But they're good. It's fine. She's going to be really mad.
Well, she's going to... Revenge is a dish best served cold. We know this. So she's just going to store up all of her little hatreds and all of her little hurts. And then finally, when she's in that place where she can do something about it, they're entering a world of pain.
Yes.
Hopefully, because I'm going to be real sad if, like, Dany's life path is just to wander around, like, having shit flung at her and, like, think she's going to get revenge and then never actually be able to get it. That would be sad.
We didn't talk about Davos and Salladhor Saan, so I guess that's what's going on, where he's going to get some ships.
Yeah.
Pirates.
That's pretty clever. I'm going to hire a pirate to sail me.
Salladhor Saan is kind of a cool character. He's just like this dude that really likes nice things.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about himself in the third person. And he, like, whenever you have a Salladhor Saan scene, there's always food.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's always eating olives or talking about food and always trying to get Davos to eat. He's like, hey, Davos, do you want some of this stuff? It's really good. I got it here. I burned a ship down and it was good. I got it all. Davos is always like, I'm a really good man. I used to be a smuggler, but now I am a knight and I have to live up to that.
That's funny. I still hadn't picked up on the fact that he's actually a knight. I was like, because that guy kept calling him a smuggler. I was like, oh, is he just like Stannis' best smuggler?
Yeah, they haven't revealed that backstory yet. I don't know if they're going to, or it doesn't. I mean, because right now, without knowing why Davos is so loyal to Stannis. I mean, they did a little bit of it when he was talking to his son, and he was like, Stannis has given you more than I ever could. You're going to be a knight someday. They call him the Onion Knight, Ser Davos the Onion Knight, because Stannis was, during Robert's Rebellion, Stannis held Dragonstone. But he basically just sat on the island, like, eating his boots. And he refused to yield because they were, under a blockade, under a siege. And they were eating rats and, like, whatever, and starving, and Davos defied it, and he smuggled in some onions.
Ah.
And in return, Stannis, knighted him or gave him a lordship or whatever,
mm-hmm.
but also punished him for being a smuggler by cutting off his fingers. Which he carries around in that little bag. You know, that little bag he's got on his neck? Those are his fingers.
See, it all makes sense now. Hence the, you Westerosi are so weird, a man cuts off your fingers and you fall in love with him. I figured that was going to be explained at some point. And I was like, well, obviously Stannis cut off his fingers, but why?
Yeah, because he's a bad smuggler, man.
That makes complete Stannis sense in Stannis' logic of the world.
Yes, right? See, that's why Stannis makes sense. Stannis says, okay, this is A plus B, equals C. We got to do all these things. These are the right things to do.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to kind of come down and agree with you that the whole Stannis-Melisandre thing just made no fucking sense at all.
Yeah, because if she's going to seduce him, it's not going to be, I'll give you a bastard son. No, sorry.
Yeah, that really was just a cheap, we just need to get some more titties in here. Like,
yeah,
I'm hoping
they
it's
could make it more mysterious. It could be about R'hllor and a vision, and there could be fire and blood and smoke. And
the thing is, she tried to play it up like that. Like she started with the whole visions of fire.
You must give yourself to R'hllor, and then R'hllor is my vagina.
If R'hllor is like the Lord of Fire and that's her vagina, that's just, she has some serious problems. That does not sound comfortable. It only burns when I pee.
No, I'm just saying, fine, they fucked, whatever, go Stannis because your wife is ugly, but for a better reason than, I will give you a bastard son. That is, I don't know. Yeah,
we'll see where it goes, but I was unconvinced by the reason and the action, both.
Right. I mean, obviously, whatever Melisandre is doing, she's a tricksy trick, right?
Yeah.
She never tells the truth. She's sly. She's got some sort of agenda. We don't know what her plan is. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, at least Stannis won't fall prey to the fake god he's got. Excuse me, not Stannis. At least Davos won't fall prey to the false god if R'hllor is a false god, because he's got Stannis as his god instead.
Yes. Well, I loved Davos. Davos and Stannis forever.
Well,
lobsters and onions, they go so good. A bit of butter.
Well, see, I appreciated his conversation with his son about, I wish I had a god. Like, philosophically, I've seen that. I've had friends in my life who've been people of very strong faith, and I'm just like, wow, that looks like so much easier to have that, to have something you can say, wow, I don't know what to do. I'm going to let something else tell me how to make this decision and run my life. It's kind of a cop out, but it's kind of easy, and sometimes I've been jealous of that. So I appreciated that he had that conversation with his son. He's like, no, I'm being serious when I say, I wish I could be that believer that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek when he's like, fine, you want me to fucking believe in something? I'll tell you what I believe in, and I'll call it a god if you need me to put it in those terms.
Stannis is my god in my dreams at night.
Exactly.
So yes, Gendry and Arya off to the wall, still safe. Tyrion is,
Tyrion's being Tyrion, and we like that.
Haters gonna hate. Well, he is vulnerable. Varys has kind of got his balls in a vice when it comes to his father and Shay and that information that he has.
Yeah.
If Cersei had that information, she'd throw him under a bus. Lickety.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he's got to be careful. And next week we'll get to see Jaime and Robb and hopefully Renly.
Renly's just off being fabulous.
And also I did want to say, and I don't think I mentioned this last time, but Catelyn going to sort of treat with Renly, that in the books is actually Catelyn's idea.
Ooh.
I know that you were critical of Catelyn.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that that's clearly with that, but in the books it was her idea. She's not as dumb as she sometimes is. She always manages to fuck something up. Let's just be serious. Yeah. But, fine. They gotta give Robb something to do. So he's gonna be Mr. Plan guy.
Yeah, I was very sad at the lack of Robb in this episode. Why don't we get Robb being nasty with some girl? Like,
yeah,
come on.
right? Because he's probably got some no nudity clause.
Probably. Well, and the thing is, it would totally, like, destroy what Robb Stark is supposed to be if he's, off doing to some girl what Theon's doing to basically every girl that crosses his path. So, I don't mind, but why can't we at least get some, like, awesome, scene where he's undressing and somebody happens to come in and give him a message? Where's that scene?
Yes, I think it's time for a haircut, Rob. Take your shirt off. Let's go.
Yes, it's the Renly special. The Renly and Loras haircut.
Oh
God! Here was my big pet peeve with this episode.
Oh.
Why was incompetent wine pouring page boy not Lancel? I was like, well, no wonder he can't pour the. It's who?
It's Podrick.
Oh, I don't know who Podrick is. But I was like, well, the reason they sent him away for not being able to pour the wine well is because he wasn't Lancel. Duh. Lancel's the only one who knows to pour wine properly.
Pod is Tyrion's totally crappy squire. He's like a kid who's like all arms and legs, and he can't fulfill simple tasks, but he is damn proud to be the hand squire. I love Pod.
Well, Pod sounds like a good addition to Tyrion's entourage, and the kind of squire that Tyrion would have. It's A, all his father would give him, and B, the kind that he would be really sympathetic to. Like, oh, you poor kid. Like, I'm going to take you in and be nice to you and protect you, and then when you're a badass knight, we'll be buddy-buddy. So it's like my brother Jaime and me.
Yes. I wonder what Jaime's up to. I guess he's just sitting in mud.
Yeah, sitting in the mud, hoping a Grey Wind doesn't come back.
Thinking about Robb getting it on with some harlot.
Wishing his sister was there.
Poor Cersei. She's like, if you see Jaime, you tell him that we're thinking of him a whole lot.
He hasn't been forgotten.
Oh, yeah. Cersei sucks. She's not doing a very good job of denying anything. I guess she's too proud. I guess she doesn't want to deny it because she's not ashamed. So I think we covered everything.
Yeah, me too.
So next week, are you ready for next week?
Next week looked like it was going to be really dramatic in the preview. I actually did watch it this time.
I didn't watch the preview. What did they show?
Lots of violence and probably some more boobies. See, here's the thing. I always watch the previews, and then I never remember them when I come to talk about them later. But it's just like, wow, that's going to be a lot. And then I'm like, there's no way that's all in one fucking episode. Like, they're conflating about the next 4 episodes. That's fine. Because they just said coming up on Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. Well, I predict Robb stuff. Maybe you'll get your wish. Maybe he'll get a haircut.
Well, we can only hope. I predict Robb stuff too, just because I feel like they're kind of cycling, because the way the books do one person's point of view at a time, and there's 4 or 5 different plot threads, and eventually, like, you have a couple different characters to deal with each, so it's not, you flip back and forth between the threads. The show's kind of doing the same way, and I don't mind that. I would actually rather than having, like, to waste time checking in with somebody who doesn't do anything this episode, just skip them all together and have relevant time with the people that are doing things.
I totally agree. I would love them to spend, an episode, like, I mean, I know Dany and Jon aren't doing much right now, but it would be nice to flesh them out a little bit more. I mean, honestly, we can sacrifice Ros a little. Come on.
But can we sacrifice Littlefinger?
Yeah, you're right. We gotta have creepy Littlefinger. He's gotta creep around. Yeah, well, I'm sure there's gonna be some Sansa stuff. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to your favorite character, the future Queen of Westeros.
Yeah. Well, look, I actually am looking forward to Sansa suddenly. Like, now that I've had this epiphany that, like, book Sansa, show Sansa are just completely fucking different, and I don't have to worry about her being retarded anymore. I can be like, man, what's Sansa gonna do next? She's a fucking survivor. Who's she gonna save? What's she gonna do? Is she gonna start undermining Joffrey? Are we to that point yet? Or is she, I don't know.
She's still writing Mrs. Joffrey Baratheon in all her
exactly,
in all her needlework
journals.
All right, cool. So next week is Robb getting a haircut or being naked.
Yes.
Sansa being cool. Jon not camping at Craster's anymore because what the hell?
Yep.
And I guess Melisandre is gonna have a bastard.
I hope not that early. Jesus, that's a big time jump.
She's magical.
She's so magical, she's like, I'm gonna get Stannis to fuck me and then tell him it's his son, even though it was really insert X other man that I fucked 3 months ago here. And then I'll tell him I'm magic, and that the baby grows extra fast because it's magic.
You really don't think she's magical. You think that she's just a hoe.
Based on the evidence that I've seen, yes. Show me some other evidence, I'm fine. Like, look, there's dragons floating around.
Yeah, so why can't somebody else be magical if there's dragons?
There's White Walkers. Bran has his little, like, connection with Wolfie. He always, like, dreams through his eyes and the crows. And, I dig it. That's fine. It does happen. But I'm just saying I haven't seen it. All I saw was a bitch drink poison and not die. She easily could have known that someone was going to try and poison her. She easily could have, like, been building up an immunity to every known poison for the last 4 years. Like, exactly. Like, that's all I'm saying. I haven't seen her do anything that a woman of her level of attraction and intelligence couldn't have done without magic.
It's true. Why does
Show me some shit you can't accomplish any other way. I'm going to believe it. Like, there's enough established in the world that I believe it's there. It's just I haven't seen it yet. That's all.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
And if she's fucking magic, why is she wasting her time with Stannis?
Because Stannis is the chosen one.
Oh, is that what it is? It's the whole, it's the whole psychic. Well, there's that whole $1 million prize for anybody that can prove they're psychic. Why hasn't someone claimed it yet? Oh, that's right, because real psychics sound dead. That's why she's on fucking Dragonstone.
You're like, dear HBO.
Hiring pirates to take them to the shore.
Hey, but those pirates are snazzy. Those are snazzy pirates.
And that was the most hilarious.
Oh, the whole, I'm not going to rape her, I'm going to fuck her.
I'm going to fuck her. You have no idea how persuasive I can be. I've never tried to fuck you. And then, like, the way his son, like, jumps out of the guy's path when he's, like, walking away. Oh, that was priceless. The best moment of the show. Yeah. Except for the one when Theon realized that was his sister. That was the best.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Asha forever. She's awesome.
That wraps us up for this episode. Thanks for listening. Come back next week. And always remember to ask, more wine, sir?